Starting with this video, the keyboard shortcuts used are all summarized at the start of the video, rather than being inserted throughout the video. Hopefully, by this point, you should be familiar with most of these shortcuts, in any case. Also, this is the first video to use Blender 5.2. At this point in its development, there is very little new so far, and most of the potential changes are likely to be in more advanced topics, not yet covered by these videos.
Subdivide, which is also available in the pop-up menu that appears when we right-click the mouse, is used to split faces or edges into more faces. Although we should work with the minimum number of elements in our mesh, it is often necessary to add more elements to at least one part of a mesh. For more details on basic subdivision, see video 38. Subdivide edge ring. This is a more specialized version of subdivision. The first step is to understand what exactly an edge ring is. Using a UV sphere, we can select a ring of edges by holding down the Alt key while clicking on one edge in that ring. To select an edge ring, we need to hold down both the Control and Alt keys before clicking on an edge. Notice that, strictly speaking, we may not be selecting a complete ring, but rather a shorter ribbon of edges. Once we've selected an edge ring, choosing the Subdivide edge ring subdivides all the selected edges, creating new faces in the process. The last op panel gives us further options to refine the results. Number of cuts defines how many cuts are made into every selected edge. To appreciate the remaining last op panel options, we'll start with a somewhat distorted version of our sphere. Interpolate determines how the new cuts are distributed. Linear places the cuts at equal distances on the edges being cut. Blend path has the cuts parallel to each other and ignores what effect this may have on the overall geometry. Blend surface has larger gaps between new edges at the center of the cuts than at the outer edges. Smoothness affects the distribution of the new edges, creating a curved effect on the original shape when set to a value other than 0. Profile factor inflates or deflates the length of the center cuts. Profile shape is linked to profile factor and determines the underlying shape being created. For further details on these shape options, see proportional editing in video 23. Unsubdivide attempts to undo previous subdivisions, but don't expect it to be successful most of the time. The last op panel has a single option labeled Iterations, which specifies how often the unsubdivide operation should be performed. Rotate edge CW rotates the selected edge clockwise to link up with another vertex within the same face. The last op panel gives us the option to change the direction of the rotation. This is a simple enough operation, but performed within a more complex shape, the result may not always be useful. Rotate edge CCW. This is identical to the previous option, but this time the edge is rotated in a counterclockwise direction since the last op panel's checkbox is selected by default. Edge slide allows us to slide an edge along the other edges to which it is linked. This option was covered in video 53. Loop cut and slide allows us to create a loop cut and slide it into the position we require. The loop cut tool was described in the first part of video 46. Offset edge slide. This creates a pair of new edges on either side of a selected edge. This tool is covered in the second part of video 46.